I am Vasuki Iyengar. I'm the proprietor of Soil and Health Solutions. I have been practicing sustainable living. I compost my kitchen waste at home, carry my own cutlery, and bring your own cutlery is one of the very important concept. And then I was very happy to answer all the questions, which is into creating awareness on composting, waste management, and also we do actually install composters at layouts, apartments, temples, and even institutions. It has been a great experience. I'm very happy to be part of the Blessed Girl show by Swarn Jha.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Blessed Girl Show. And today my guest is Vasuki Iyengar. He is one of the co-founders of Soil and Health and based out of Bangalore. He is working with soil and health for almost over a decade now. So let's hear from him.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you so much. So wonderful to have you here, and I'm really, looking forward to the conversation we are going to have actually, because this is something I've been planning with you for a while now, and I remember doing the Instagram live for almost over a month now, or 2 months precisely. But just to understand how much it is important for us to take care of soil and how we can do such a simple things which I have been following on your Instagram story and your own channel. It has really brought a lot of presence in my own life, and I have been doing it for almost 6 months now. So to begin with, what interested you to start with it? How it exactly happened, and who inspired you to do it?
Right. I come from a village which is about 60 kilometers from Bangalore, and it's a village where my home used to have a garden. And while growing up and also studying, if I happen to be upset or stressed with my studies, I would actually go and dig some soil and then maybe trim some plants. And so the garden was always part of life. Engineering college in computer science, and then became busy in finding a job, and then moving to US, and we lived there for about 8-9 years. But when we came back, first thing we wanted to do was actually build a home, and then allocate some space for the garden, and also have terrace garden. Rainwater harvesting was something we really wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, in order to actually grow our own vegetables and greens, or even flowers for that matter, we need compost.
Yeah.
And that's when actually we bought a Kamba pot from Daily Dump. We saw that at a friend's place, and then we bought it, and then we were not successful in actually using it, because it was not easy to get the browns, the cocoa peat and other things at that time. But we attempted. So that thought of composting and then growing was always there in our mind, for me and my wife. So later, once I moved out of IT, computer industry, then one of my friend asked me, let's do something for the environment, and that's how we started Shuddh Lab, which is a company. We started trying to do waste management at apartments and villa properties and these things. So the thought of composting at home, I always wanted to actually practice something, and then only actually I can talk about it with confidence. So that's what made me actually do composting at home.
Wow, wonderful. So, was it like that you chose simultaneously while you were, working in the IT company? You wanted to just see how it will go with your friend, or you were like all out that I'm going to try this because this is something I've been really interested in, and you just moved out of this whole IT industry and coming to soil and health completely, or working on this conservation?
No, I still have a small job. Even now,
Okay.
there is a job that fetches me salary, and but that only occupies 20% of my time. I'm occupied in that job, whereas I have the 80% of the time in the creating awareness, being part of the social enterprise, the soil and health, that kind of a thing. So, but my the person who pays my salary is my classmate, so he understands my passion towards composting and waste management. So he's very accommodative, and that's why I'm able to balance both and
Wonderful.
then continue doing this work.
Yeah, wow. So do you feel this, since you have started with this soil health, and do you feel right now that you could have done it earlier in your as in in your own career? Like right now, it's like almost 10 plus years, right? When you did your engineering way back, and you were actually into soil and health, or you were actually into a lot of conservation or farming, gardening. But now it's like almost 10 years gone. So how do you feel that you have already made up with that kind of awareness, or the goal was, or was it like you came with a goal, or it wasn't never like that?
We need actually thousands and tens of thousands of many more such volunteers to take care of waste. That's the humongous amount of garbage that's there in all our different cities. Whenever I actually come across youngsters who are actually directly plunging into whether it is waste management or many different domain of social enterprise or social cause, I'm always happy to meet them, and in fact including you. So you folks are actually I try to build a safety net. I try to have a enough money basically, so that I can actually shift to the waste management. But I respect and encourage a lot of youngsters who are actually directly starting off dealing with working in a social cause.
Got it. So tell us about how composting is done, or what kind of composting is there, and to a person who is listening for this first time, what are the things they can start doing as a conservation? Some of the things you would say that this can be done very easily, there isn't much of effort required here, that kind of thing.
Yes. So composting, we need actually 5 things. We kind of now have made this thing 5 things important for composting. First thing is actually the container, any plastic container, mud pot, or a metal mesh composter would work. They can choose. The second thing is air circulation, because this aerobic composting, there is greens and browns. Greens are kitchen waste, browns are actually the material that absorbs the moisture, like crushed dry leaves, the cocoa peat. And then the fourth one is the microorganisms, composting microorganisms. And the fifth one is a place at home. Where do you keep it? Those are the 5 things important for composting. We also have a video on what are the problems and corresponding solutions, and then recommendations. So now it's experiential. Composting is very much something that you should start doing. You learn more. Each one is unique, and each one's experience is actually unique. So, and there is so much of material that one can refer to, get guidance, and then continue without actually stopping. That's the thing. So many a times whenever we provide the compost bin, we actually keep asking them, if you ever stop, please tell us the reason why you stopped, because we learn from that, and then we can actually always improve the product, improve the service based on their feedback.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a very valid point, because some of the times there is a reason why people stop doing it. So, giving an example, that when I started at my place, especially my parents, I live with my parents. So, especially my father was really receptive to it, and it's like there was a little kiosk, and I tried connecting with you on that, and it was a different kind of a response from him. I wasn't expecting, because he was like, why are we doing this? There is a community which is doing it already, and they are taking care of it. Why do you want to get into it and everything? So and I'm sure there are, just like me, there are people who are actually interested in doing it, but they're not doing it because of their own circumstances in the community. Like, the community itself is not supporting them to do it. So this is one of the major challenge I feel at this point of time, someone who wants to do it is. So how do you say for them to start doing it? What should be the way they can communicate with people in a way that it does not create a hindrance, and it does not create a disharmony as well?
There are a lot of reasons actually, as we try to collate what are the reasons why people actually stop composting. One thing is actually they are out of town for a week or two, and they actually come back, and then that continuity is kind of missing. So they start actually handing over the waste because they keep coming and collecting the waste. That's one aspect of it. There is another thing is actually, as you rightly said, different stakeholders at home are your neighbor, the house next to it, and then there are people who are living in PG, and the house owner, if you are renting, then there may be an issue. Yeah. So, but end of the day, there are three things that I have understood. One is my waste is my responsibility. And once you get hooked on to composting, you don't feel like, let's say you travel and then you go to a hotel, and then you happen to eat most of the things that you ordered and there is something left, you don't feel like throwing it. Once you get used to composting, that's what actually makes you. So that's one thing. My waste is my responsibility. Once you do that, the second thing I usually talk about in programs is, if you have space in your heart and mind, then you will find space to do composting. Because a lot of people say, no, I don't have space. And this is something every time, whenever I go and visit an apartment or a community, we do some home composting installations also. Everyone start their conversation by saying, we don't have much space, right? And that space, it depends on, I can see space. So I usually give them examples of, like, where people who live in Mumbai or in MG Road in Bangalore, they have an apartment and they don't even have a balcony, but they have a window sill. That's an extension of the window. If you believe in my waste is my responsibility, then you will start composting it. Yeah. The third thing that encourages people to do, what I usually tell them, is integrate your composting and gardening or growing. Yeah. Then you will actually use your compost, you grow, and then you come back again and then reuse that material again in your composting process. And you also happen to harvest some greens, which are safe vegetables and greens. Yeah. So when we do our programs, we actually talk about health, human health, how human health can improve when we actually start composting and then growing our own safe vegetables and greens. Yeah. Eat and then be healthy is one part of it. Even when we talk about dry waste that we generate, the paper, plastic, metal, glass, how we can adopt 4R principle, the refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle, and then you can actually reduce the amount of plastic waste that one would generate. Yeah. So we always actually talk about from a human health angle. It is their own health, their family health, and their children's health. That is at danger because of the waste that we may actually throw.
Yeah, yeah. So July is a month of even no plastic July, right? And I mean, I have been following your whole, stories and no plastic and bring your own cutlery, bring your own dabba, all these campaigns, which are very simple things which you can inculcate. It is not a huge thing. You used to carry dabba in schools as well. You used to carry in college as well, and this is something we can all can do, which doesn't take much of effort, but it's such a simple thing. So I mean, some of the things I feel at the moment, because we are home ridden, of course, it is still easy. But when we go back, or when things go normal, or when we are actually traveling, there is a laid back attitude. It's okay, we'll order something, and we don't want to carry those cutlery. And sometimes it is also embarrassing. Sometimes it comes more of, I think people take it on their ego. I don't know, but something like that, that you are a senior person or something like that, it's there, or you are in social circle, and it's little embarrassing that you're taking out your own cutlery and everything. So do you have anything to say on that? How do you take care of this is something, you should not make an issue out of it, but I mean, what do you say on that? Because it is, some people make a issue out of it.
Yeah, I actually have, that's where the gurus and the people who influenced me come into the picture. We actually named our kit as Vani kit because Vani Murthy from Malleshwaram is the one who actually initially started the whole idea of actually having one cloth bag and then few things in that. Then whenever she steps out, so when I actually started doing that, even when we go to wedding, it was actually because it's my relatives' weddings, and entire family would go, and carrying that bag actually as a man, as compared to women would actually carry a bag, but this one was something actually I have to hang it on my shoulder and then carry, and then when you have steel cutlery in a bag, it would make some noise also. And then where do you keep it? You have to go on the stage and take a picture and but it somehow in about actually 6 months to 8 months it turned into pride. I was actually very proud to carry those things, and then it actually we would remove the paper cup and then start placing all our cutlery around it, and then I don't actually talk about it. I don't try to tell any of my relatives or the friends that you also follow this. No. What we do is we just do whatever that we have carried, and I'm using it, and then obviously I carry 2-3 more pairs for my wife and 2 children also, and we use it. We don't actually talk about it, but you will be very surprised to see that there is somebody who got influenced. That's where I believe in passive influence. There is a direct influence, and then there is a passive influence. Someone noticed, and then they thought, oh, you know what, it makes sense that we should actually carry our own cutlery, kind of a thing. Or next time when my cousin or someone would ask me, you usually carry so many, can you give me one also, because I don't want to use the paper cup or the mineral water bottle. So it's amazing. I actually moved from an embarrassment situation, as you rightly said, to that is actually the kind of an indication or the thing that I can proudly talk about.
Absolutely. Family, or when the community becomes part of it, then it becomes more of a thing that is very normal. It's a habit. And that's how I think it becomes easier for anyone to follow as well. Right. So I would like to know precisely that some of the, when we are talking about soil and you have started doing the composting, some of the challenges, 3 challenges I'm going to mention, which I wanted more help or guidance on, would say, is like most of the times when it is too much of wet waste, your compost goes completely wet and there is leak, in your compost. That is one situation. Then one of the situation which is mostly people are, because they are not doing composting, is it makes it avoid brings more of flies, insects, different kind of all those issues. And last one is a smell. So these are the three, I think, the major. Of course there are videos and there are two more angle to it, but I wanted to touch base these three part majorly because I think people get more hooked on these three. Yeah.
Okay. No, the bad smell is a typical question asked. Any time, whenever I'm doing a program, before the program and even after I explain about the simple science behind it, and then end again, they will ask that question. The bad smell is more because of lump of food, whether it's a whole fruit or a vegetable, or it can be a lump of cooked food that has been added, or waste is being dumped, not like really layered. These are the reasons why the smell comes, and then it's an anaerobic condition. And we actually talk about cutting vegetables into smaller pieces, whatever you are throwing, and then also layering, and then there is an equal portions of greens and browns that we actually talk about. So that's the reason, how to avoid the bad smell. The second thing you mentioned about flies and maggots, the worms that come out of their babies of the flies.
Yeah.
And that happens also when there is more moisture, more water content in the kitchen waste, and less browns being added. That's what causes them to go around. The practice is actually live and let them live. Many of these insects and worms in compost, it's an ecosystem, and they are actually misunderstood or misinterpreted because the urban population have reached a point where they think that most of those things are dangerous to us, but it's in reality it's about 90 to 95% are not an issue at all. So they are misunderstood. So you need to live and then let them live. That's a very important thing. And also take caution in terms of actually making sure that you follow the process. If you don't follow the process, you will face these kind of issues. And then the liquid coming out is also an indication. It's the same issue. So we actually specifically talk about problems, solutions, and recommendations. When I take compost to show in my programs, or when I do online programs also, I never show finely sieved dry powder, because that's actually kind of dead compost. What compost is actually where you have life in it. A lot of microorganisms are thriving, there are insects and worms are thriving, and they don't harm neither you nor the plants. Which you can actually put it directly to the plant. So we talk about how compost should look like. It should, if you squeeze a handful, there should be 4 or 5 drops of water. It shouldn't be looking like dry tea powder. There is wet, and then there is something that's called moist in between. And that is what actually the compost should look like. You hold a fistful, and then it remains as the fist, and then you touch it, it breaks. That's the right mixture, what you need for even to grow. So the roots will be able to actually penetrate, and then they will grow freely when your potting mix is actually moist and fluffy.
Got it. Sure. So now I would like to precisely understand that what is the science behind composting? Why are we promoting it? What exactly, why are we not doing it? Why was it earlier not even there? Now it is more of there. Or I think maybe it was not to that extent awareness was there that everyone should be composting. What do you say about that?
Composting was there before, and it was also called agriculture before the Green Revolution that happened in late 70s and early 80s, when chemical fertilizers and pesticides were introduced. And then later on, in order to get better yield was the concern. And then farmers started excessive use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. and that actually depleted the soil health. Soil health actually came down, and then also the city, Bangalore, generates about 300,000 to the tons of kitchen waste. It should get composted and then it should go back into the soil, not to a landfill. It should go to the soil.
Yeah.
When compost is added to the soil, soil can retain moisture. Soil can retain water. You have heard of actually floods in Kerala or in Tamil Nadu or in Bihar. Right after the flood, there is a water scarcity.
Yeah.
Why? It's because actually the soil has lost its ability to retain water. So organic matter, which is your kitchen waste, converted into compost, when added to soil, it can retain water, can retain moisture. Now there is also the infrared rays that is coming from sun also gets reflected if it is actually, if it has good amount of organic matter. So but end of the day, the vegetable peel, fruit peel, your kitchen waste originated from soil, and it should go back into the soil.
The soil, not to yeah. Okay, so just to understand then, what exactly is the aerobic and anaerobic style of composting? What is the difference? And that you are even into vermicomposting, yeah. So 3 kinds of composting. So how do you learn that, or do you have a workshop on that as well, or do you offer something on that?
Yeah, we actually most of the time recommend aerobic composting, where we are using air circulation, the oxygen, and that's something that's easy for people to do. Now, if you are a terrace gardener and you are into growing more, say, vegetables and fruits, then there is a fermentation method of composting, which is called anaerobic composting. And it is typically managed by more gardeners, and you need a little more commitment towards, because it is a 2-stage composting process, anaerobic process. So I followed anaerobic also for quite some time, for about 4 or 5 years. And the third one is vermicomposting. Unless you master your art of composting in aerobic, we don't recommend going into earthworms and doing vermicomposting, because earthworms are very sensitive. So first learn aerobic composting and then move on to vermicomposting.
So since you're mentioning about 4R principle, refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle. So some of the things, if you would like to mention in refuse, would be, what could that be?
Oh, there are actually about 8 or 10 things that we, so refuse any single use. And then there are 4 items, but particularly the mineral water bottle, the straw, there is a plastic bag versus cloth bag, and then the last one is actually the paper cup. So these are the 4 things that is actually contributing to 50% of the single-use plastic that is being used. So those are the main items. But we do carry, in my bag, I carry 2 plates, 2 spoons, 2 tumblers, and then actually there are 2 tiffin box. It's all inside the box, so that if that set actually I have been using for the last 2 years, it is sufficient for me to make sure that I don't need to use any single use at all anywhere. So those are the items that actually help us. And if for some reason, let's say I don't have it, or it is at a particular distance, and I have to walk down, I will still not take any tea in a paper cup. I refuse, and that is very important. So you treat yourself as though, like, you are not carrying your wallet. If you don't have money, you will not be able to buy the coffee or tea, right? So think that if the person is actually providing you in only paper cup, then you think that you don't have money, so you cannot buy. But what happens is, actually there are programs that we get invited to, and then we do tell the host ahead of time that there should not be any use of paper cups. please do not serve, because it doesn't make sense. You're talking about waste management and you still serve coffee and tea in paper cup, or in some snacks in a paper, the plastic plate, just for the convenience part of it. It defeats the purpose. So we need to lead by example. We need to, okay, whatever I am actually talking about, I practice. And I never actually touch any of the liquid provided in any of the single-use disposal.
Wow, wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for that valid point. Because I think leading by example is something we always struggle with, because it's always easy to just mention, do it like that. But why not just start with yourself? I mean, that's definitely a challenge. But yeah,
but it goes beyond, actually, even particularly when they are honoring us. There can be a jazzy shawl that is actually provided. The decoration, like they may want to put an garland, and the garland is totally plastic. So we actually tell the host ahead of time that please don't do that. In fact, don't give us any memento also, because it's all it gets discarded. It's of no use. But we actually tell them ahead of time, so that, because we don't want to refuse on the stage. So that's why ahead of time we actually tell them that we do not want to accept.
I would say refusal state or a denial state, that you don't need it. You build on that, because I don't think it can come very natural. It takes time to build on that okay, I'm not going to use it, I don't need it, that kind of thing. So how do you build on it? What do you say about that?
There are two things. It also did not happen overnight for me. It's one step at a time. We shouldn't actually make it overwhelming, even for ourselves or actually other family members, because it can be very intimidating for them. When in fact, when I go out with some of my friends, actually they'll be very afraid to even touch the tissue that's on the table. So that's how your personality, your this thing becomes. But I don't want to actually make it so uncomfortable. So as I said, I just continue to do what I do. I carry my handkerchief, and then I make sure that I don't use the tissue. So that's the aspect. So it's one step at a time, and then cultivate the habit, and then I'm sure in 6 months or 8 months you will be there, actually, wherein you will be able to actually avoid many of these, whether it's single use or in fact actually reduce the amount of plastic that we generate.
Yeah, because I think like, for just giving an example of kitchen towel as in the paper towel, which I meant, paper towel, tissues, home foil. These are the things this is so natural. It is there in kitchens right now.
No, it's not natural, actually.
It is not. I mean, it has become. I'm just trying to say. Yeah, it has been made, or it has been shown that it is the natural way of living in a kitchen, normal kitchen. We can actually stop right this moment that we can avoid in our kitchen. Like, how can we alternate it? How can we go ahead and start doing it right away? That this is a good alternate, and you don't need it. Like that.
I think it is when you look at your the dry waste bag that we typically accumulate. First step is actually make sure that it is clean and dry. It's washed, like let's say milk packets or the jam bottle and all those things. Accumulate for 15 days. I mean, that itself actually throws a lot of issue for certain people. How can I actually store it for 15 days? It smells bad. But if you have cleaned properly and then dried it, it will not. After doing that, put it on, like in your living room or in a platform, and then separate it, and then see. That's called doing a waste audit. When you do the waste audit, and you group it together, how many milk packets do I have, how many curd packets, how many ketchup bottles, for 15 days or 1 month, that gives you, okay, this is something that I can reduce. There is an alternative. And now there are shops available where it's like, you can take your own groceries in your cloth bag. So then the waste audit is a very important step, which can give you the clue how you can actually refuse and reduce.
I have to know one of your book which really encouraged you to this whole lifestyle of conservation and work towards it and creating awareness. Any particular book that encouraged you or which inspires you as a person as well? It's fine.
I think it's been a long time since I read a book actually on this one, but there are people who influenced me. One is obviously Vani Murthy, as I mentioned. There is Dr. Joshi Cherian. He's a microbiologist and my guru on aerobic composting. And then there is also Mr. Krishna Kumar, who teaches about bokashi composting and gardening. So these are the people who, and the good thing is in Bangalore there is a huge citizen movement. And the citizen movement is what actually made Bangalore look at their garbage. Also, it is actually because the garbage was lying everywhere. If it was collected and then taken away, people would not have made such a big effort to do this. So I realized the power of citizen movement when I went to another country to attend a conference, and there were 4 professors from 4 different parts of that country. They all spoke about Bangalore model. So many Bangaloreans actually don't know, the amount of work that has been done in solid waste management here. And they think that Bangalore is a garbage city. Yes, it is a garbage city, but that's what is driving people to take action. Adopt sustainable living methods and also do composting. So we have a very good learning center in HSR layout called Swachhagraha Kalika Kendra, where many citizens come and then to looking for home composting solutions or community composting solutions. And then later on, what do you do with the compost that you generated? There is a gardening section also, and it's a community garden where volunteers come and participate. So community gardening, sharing in your community is something that we need to celebrate, and that's what Kalika Kendra does.
Absolutely. I think, with that, I would like to add to this part that I have been composting for almost 6 months, and all of the compost which I have been able to make, I've been able to, give in my community as well. So I think thanks to that kind of encouragement and a whole community which you have built, because of course HSR is quite far from where I put. But I think someday maybe I will definitely come and visit you there and maybe volunteer. So 5 things you would say that you are definitely blessed, that this is what you have been, and this is something this is very dear, as in wholesome.
I'm very glad that we found garbage and garbage found us. This is we are very passionate about waste management and sustainable living, because that's what it comes under the broader umbrella of sustainable living. And we have a very good network of practitioners, waste management practitioners, what we call them. So and that network actually helps for each other. We learn from each other. We are able to actually educate and create more awareness, not just in Bangalore, it is across India and it's across the world, because now with the social media and during the pandemic, we rediscovered ourselves. We are able to actually do Instagram Live, or it's YouTube or Zoom or Microsoft Teams. We have become very proficient. And also it's very convenient for us actually. Otherwise, we would have to drive down to the location. But now at home, actually, I can do both. Talk about it as through a presentation as well as a demo. So the passion really drives us, and it's a very good set of practitioners who have become friends. So whenever there is an event on, it's supposed to be a green event. It's whether it's a green wedding, or it is actually a, composting Sante. We do a fair. Anytime we gather, we are all together.
Wow.
Yeah, I think stay positive because many a time we receive a call and then a person calls and then says, "Oh, you know what? It has worked in your community because all the people living around you are good, and in my community it will not happen. No one listens to me." That kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
that's not true. Every community it's very similar. There are people who are like-minded, and there are people who don't fit to live in a community, but it's actually the influence, the positive influence, and stay positive, then it can happen actually.
Yeah.
The second thing is I talk about consultant. Be a consultant. I show them actually 5 different options. We show them mud pot, we show them plastic container. So we don't force our ideas, and what has worked, it has worked for me, so it will work for you also. We don't force that. So we always provide options, option 1 up to option 3, and the person should choose which options works for them. So be a consultant is another thing. So I think those are the.
Thank you for giving your time, and I hope you have a wonderful journey ahead which you have chosen, and creating awareness with others. And I hope to see you soon in person, and really inspired by you. I think a lot of people are going to make this change and make it their own lifestyle. So thank you once again.
Yeah, and I wish you all the best, and it's great to be on your show. And we are all together in this journey, the journey of sustainable living.
Absolutely.